Chapter 471. The Great Battle 4. The anxiety born from time flowing so slowly it might as well have stopped led to increasingly deep contemplation, which eventually awakened something deeply dormant within. As complex thoughts disappeared and thinking became simpler, whoosh, black flames entered Mok Jayongun's field of vision. Though in the shape of flames, they contained a darkness like the abyss. In the endless depths, along with ferocity, a pure demonic nature could be felt. Despite encountering it for the first time, it felt very familiar. What on earth was this thing before him? As he wondered, the black flames flickered and a voice was heard. "Can you see?" "You can see. Are we finally facing each other properly?" I thought it would take much longer for you to observe yourself. How truly surprising." This voice. It was certainly that. That existence within himself. Is this its form? What on earth is this? As he wondered at its appearance, more alien than expected, the black flames flickered again and the voice resonated in his ears. "There's no need to question the natural order that has come. Your encounter with me like this means your will has attained that level of caliber." Caliber. Although you've lost the core, your caliber, born entirely of human will, cannot be equal to mine, who has lived for an unfathomably long time. An unfathomably long time? What on earth is this being? He had learned many things on his journey of revenge that began to avenge his grandfather. However, the more clues he discovered about himself, the more he found himself in a labyrinth. This was especially true because of the spirit sword. What exactly are you? Do you know everything about me? A straightforward question. Answer what I'm asking. A question about myself to myself. How truly novel. What? What is it saying now? A question about myself to myself. Have you been thinking we were separate entities? But that's not it. You must have sensed it clearly. That although our personalities and wills may differ, we are one. Mok Jayongun, momentarily at a loss for words, soon denied this. Nonsense. Why are you denying it? Do you think your life up to now could be negated? The negation of life. Questions about his own identity led him to make the worst assumptions about himself. That the being inside him was actually the essence and he was merely a derivative existence from that essence. He became conscious of this when the black flame entity controlled his physical body. As if his own will existed but his body wasn't his, he completely lost control. That's why he could only watch. Interesting. It was my wish and choice, but I didn't expect such a strong will to form. What are you talking about? Have you become attached to your own life? The black flames flickered. Though the caliber of will has increased, humans are certainly unstable beings. Born of human will, despite the clearly short life, it seems many emotions have formed. Was it still too early to fully accept after all? As he thought this, Mok Jayongun raised his will. Attachment to life. Don't define me as you please. Don't define? Even if the truth about me is not what I wished for, this life I've experienced until now and these emotions I currently have are entirely my own. The flames fell silent for a moment at Mok Jayongun's strong will. Then they flickered again and the voice resonated. "I had a high evaluation of human potential, but you certainly exceed my expectations." What are you trying to say? It's exactly as I said. It's praise. Since you're also me, is it self-praise? Is your constant reference to you and I being one an attempt to take control of this body? I am merely an impurity. What? Mok Jayongun couldn't hide his bewilderment at these unexpected words. What on earth was it saying? From the moment I lost everything precious to me, nothing remained for me. To put it in human terms, it would be correct to say I have no great lingering attachment to life. No lingering attachment? Didn't I say? Even if not human, most intelligent life forms find their meaning in life fades when they lose what they hold dear. If the ability to think exists, that is. At these words from the black flames, Mok Jayongun's gaze became strange. In his previous, more emotionless state, it would have been difficult to readily accept these words. The anger and killing intent that came after losing his grandfather became the driving force that moved him, but within that lay a strong emptiness. And trapped in the supreme void sealing reversal technique, feeling anxious about possibly losing Chongryong, the moment he considered what if he lost her, he felt an emotion entirely different from anger or sadness. Yes. As it said, it was a moment of reflecting on the meaning of life. By calling yourself an impurity, do you consider yourself already dead? That too could be an answer. might be somewhat difficult for you. Though, I think I understand the feeling. The deep emotional line contained in Mok Jaeongun's voice. Reading this, the black flames felt something subtle. How truly strange. You've lived for just a fleeting moment, yet you feel such complex emotions as I did. It seems the issue isn't how long one has lived but how one has lived. Ha! At that moment the black flames flickered greatly. The surging flames seemed to be greatly agitated. Then a boisterous laugh rang out. Ha! Yes. Your words are correct. Whether long or short, how one has lived is what's important. How truly coincidental. Is this what it feels like to see oneself through oneself? You keep saying only what you want to say. What exactly are you? You speak as if you're not human. Are you really a divine being like the fire faith order talks about, or rather a godlike existence? But believers with faith in fire do call me that. A god? Then is this consciousness different from me, or rather within me, truly a divine being? As he was astonished, the black flames flickered and answered. But that alone cannot define me. Those who fear me call me terror, those steeped in greed call me evil, and the pure call me immortal. Everything is like the two sides of a coin. You mean it differs depending on the perspective or viewpoint? Yes. Everyone would define themselves, but anything will inevitably differ according to the subjectivity of those observing. Then what exactly is your existence as defined by your own subjectivity, not that of other objects? A definition of my existence. It's been a very long time since I've talked about myself to someone. No, it would be more correct to say it's the first time. Since I'm talking about myself to myself. I was born in darkness deeper than the abyss. I am the black flame that brings fear, terror, and chaos, the very essence of primordial demons. I was born with the destiny to rule and am a being who received the worship of followers. Whoosh. Eventually, a form appeared within the burning black flames, one that Mok Jaeongun had never imagined. A majesty and pressure that seemed to encompass everything. It was awe itself. For a moment, even Mok Jaeongun was captivated by reverence, and as the being that revealed itself this way approached Mok Jaeongun, it spoke. I am the king. The demon king who rules over all demons. At the same time, in the 10,000 Great Mountains, the former Heaven and Earth Society warriors under Mok Jaeongun, who had secured the high ground of the mountain peaks that were like natural fortresses, grew grim as they watched the numerous cavalry approaching. Thud 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 thud. At a glance it was close to 10,000 in number. Flags fluttered at the front of the rapidly advancing cavalry, revealing who they were. Evil Alliance. First Alliance Lord, Unruly Evil Hegemon Emperor Hang Sim. Third Alliance Lord, Red Demonic Alliance Lord Imugun. Seventh Alliance Lord, Light Killing King Hawaii. Ninth Alliance Lord, Gal Yun, Great Chief of the 36 Gangs of the Yangtze River. Poison King Baek Saha furrowed his brow as he saw the flags symbolizing the Evil Alliance and its 4 Alliance Lords, then spoke in a serious voice. The situation we feared has come to pass. So it seems. The smile disappeared from Shadow Clan Master Yisian's face, who had been showing some composure despite their numerical inferiority until just moments ago. This was because the worst-case scenario they had envisioned had unfolded. The alliance between the Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance was something they had anticipated to some extent based on reports from branch messengers. However, because their starting points were different, their strategy was to use every means and method to decide the battle with the Righteous Alliance before the Evil Alliance arrived. That's why they didn't hesitate to unleash poison attacks from the start, but the feared situation had occurred. The Evil Alliance had arrived at the battlefield far exceeding expectations. Even with cavalry, this is too fast. We can only assume the Righteous Alliance provided relay stations for each sect and branch. Relay stations. Places prepared with lodging, food, stables, and carriages, with the most important role being the ability to change horses. No matter how well-trained, horses couldn't run for days without rest. Therefore, by changing to horses with sufficient stamina reserves at these relay stations, they could move quickly and efficiently without needing to rest the horses. Our chances have decreased further. Axe-destroying King Ho Tae-gang, positioned on the highest mountain peak, also had a hardened expression. Although they had repelled nearly 2,000 of the Righteous Alliance's front line with poison attacks in the initial battle, they still faced a massive force of 44,000. Moreover, with the Evil Alliance's forces added, the situation had grown even darker. What was worse? Unruly evil hegemon Emperor Hang Sim. He was the first Alliance Lord of the Evil Alliance, called the Hegemon of the North, and one of the seven heavens at the pinnacle of the current martial arts world. The other Alliance Lords of the Evil Alliance were also formidable Supreme Masters, but he was a peerless master of the Great Grandmaster level, ranking among the upper echelons of the seven heavens. Of all times for our Lord to be absent. They were the top figures of the Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance. Among the current top executives under Mok Jiongun, only Oh Cheon-mu, the master of Spiritual Sword Sanctuary and also one of the seven heavens, could face them one-on-one in direct combat. Two of the seven heavens. It wasn't a situation Oh Cheon-mu could handle alone. The worst crisis had arrived. There's no way out. Is a defensive battle the only answer? The 10,000 Great Mountains were well suited for defense, worthy of being called a natural fortress. By occupying the high ground and making good use of the many ambush points, they could potentially hold off tens of thousands of enemies, so for now this was the only way to deal with all of them. The one fortunate thing was that, like the Sichuan Tang family, the Evil Alliance had no suitable group for using poisons, so they could use this to delay the enemy's all-out offensive as much as possible and reduce their numbers and morale. Bang! 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 At that very moment, explosions erupted with loud booms from the mountain peaks at the front line. No way. Sudden explosions. The places where they occurred were none other than where the archers and warriors capable of using the Beck family's poison attacks were hiding in ambush. Rumble rumble. Kwakwa. The explosives used must have been numerous and powerful, as 3 mountain peaks collapsed, even causing landslides. Watching this, the corners of Righteous Alliance leader Zhang Hyanmun's mouth turned upward. Uhuhu. You made your move, main body. Even with the poison-repelling beads, it would have been difficult to engage in an all-out battle without depleting or dealing with their arrows and poison. But with the explosions that just occurred where the archers were hiding, a golden opportunity had arisen. While the Righteous Alliance executives were bewildered by the sudden explosions, Zhang Hyanmun hurriedly raised his sect's unique weapon, the famous sword Iwai, and shouted loudly. The opportunity has come. Advance. Wah! As soon as his order fell, the Righteous Alliance warriors, starting with the front line holding torches burning poison-repelling beads, all rushed towards the 10,000 Great Mountains. The same was true for the Evil Alliance forces that had arrived late. Haha. We can't let those Righteous Alliance bastards steal the glory. Everyone advance. Wah wah. Over 8,000 cavalry charged all at once, roaring at the command of unruly evil hegemon Emperor Hang Sim, the first Alliance Lord of the Evil Alliance. As the mountain peaks at the front line where the archers were positioned collapsed from the explosions, the top executives hurriedly shouted in the face of the tide-like all-out offensive of the Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance. The enemy is coming. The enemy is coming. Regroup the front lines. Despite losing about 70% of the archers to the sudden explosions and many being injured, they staggered to their feet, regrouping the battle lines while leaving their comrades' bodies behind. In the meantime, the Evil Alliance forces on the left and the Righteous Alliance forces on the right had approached to within 300 paces. Thus, the all-out war between the 3 major powers dividing the current martial arts world was about to begin. Good. Their attention is diverted. Now let's retrieve what belongs to him. Swish swish swish. Just as they were about to clash, black shadows were stealthily approaching the rear mountain peak guarded by Corpse Blood Valley Master Li Jiom. Chapter 472. The Great Battle 5. Strategically, the Corpse Blood Valley was nominally in charge of the rear. However, beneath this they were tasked with protecting Wai Soyun. Quack-quack-quack-quang. Looking towards the front where the booming sounds came from, collapsing mountain peaks engulfed in black smoke were visible. Corpse Blood Valley Master Li Jiom furrowed his brow as he watched this. With the high ground of the 10,000 Great Mountains, called a natural fortress, and the advantage of poison, he thought it wouldn't be breached in a short time. But what were those explosions on the mountain peaks? Could there still be secret society spies remaining inside? It was hard to comprehend otherwise. Li Jiom shouted towards the Corpse Blood Valley warriors positioned on the mountain peak. Something's happened at the front. An all-out offensive will likely follow soon, so be on guard. Yes, sir. Rumble rumble rumble. At Li Jiom's order, the Corpse Blood Valley warriors formed groups of 12, setting up formations and taking defensive positions. Li Jiom climbed atop a large boulder, surveying and guarding the surroundings. There wasn't just one boulder on the peak. With dozens present, it was difficult to discern which might conceal a secret passage. Thud 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 thud. The sound of numerous people rushing through the mountain peaks echoed. With the front line collapsing, it seemed the all-out offensive was indeed following. As he watched the front, Corpse Blood Valley Master Li Jiom's gaze suddenly sharpened. Flinch. What's this? While focusing on the front, he hadn't noticed, but suddenly he felt unknown presences approaching the mountain peak. Li Jiom shouted to the Corpse Blood Valley warriors. Enemies are climbing up. Don't let your guard down. Yes, sir. At his command, the warriors guarding the edge of the peak looked down. Just then, shouts were heard simultaneously from the southeast, south and southwest areas. Enemy sighted. Masked individuals are climbing up. Stop them from coming up. Those with bows or long-range weapons immediately fired arrows and threw daggers or hidden weapons. In response, the masked individuals who had been stealthily climbing up dodged the incoming projectiles with nimble movements, using their lightness skills to reach the top of the peak. Stop them. The enemy has reached the top. Trap them in formation. Rumble, 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 rumble. As masked individuals climbed up the peak from various directions, the warriors who had already formed formations surrounded them. The number of masked individuals wasn't as large as expected. However, the sense of their chi revealed that each was no ordinary master. Seeing them, Corpse Blood Valley Master Li Jiom also drew his sword from its scabbard. Fring. As expected. Li Jiom clicked his tongue. It seemed they had sent in a small elite force of masters to create chaos at the front, leading to an all-out offensive, and used that opportunity to send people to kidnap Wei Soyun. Of course, that assumption was correct. Nung Jinsun, the second rank of secret society and leader of the masked individuals, raised the corner of his mouth in a cold smile as he looked at Li Jiom in the center of the mountain peak. Did you think you could deceive him? The memory from earlier flashed quickly through Nung Jinsun's mind. They aimed for the darkness under the lamp. What do you mean by that? She is here. Her soul and body. Then you mean they brought her to the battlefield instead of Heaven and Earth Society headquarters to catch us off guard? It's not a bad judgment. But only in ordinary cases. Hoo. Such foolish bastards. Not knowing there's no way to escape Mok Gon's eyes. Then I'll infiltrate the 10,000 Great Mountains and bring back the body when they clash in earnest. No. Move now. What? But if we go now with their vigilance and the time it'll take to find the body. He had judged it better to wait for the opportunity during the full-scale battle. Of course, this judgment wasn't wrong. However, no. There's no need to wait for their flow. Use all the prepared explosives to hasten the chaos and full-scale battle. The explosives already? Yes. And there's no need to search all the peaks. Find where the Corpse Blood Valley is. How about the Corpse Blood Valley? Aware that the body is being targeted, they surely had their most trusted people guard it. Mok Gon's insight was accurate. Although it was the rear, they had formed a formation centered in the middle of the peak, not in the direction from which the enemy was approaching. This meant his prediction was correct. Fring. Nung Jinsun, the second rank of secret society, drew the saber on his back. Whoosh. As he drew the saber, a blade so translucent it appeared to be made of ice was revealed, with cold energy swirling around it. Sensing this, Corpse Blood Valley Master Li Jiom also raised his sword with vigilance, generating heat. Whoosh. Hoo. That's right, I'm your opponent. They were a fire sword and an ice saber, completely opposite to each other. Although he couldn't enter the first rank because he couldn't accept demon power, he had succeeded in absorbing some of the spirit power contained in the Great Peng's blood. This allowed him to assist him closely, and in return he was granted the Snow Origin saber made from millennia-old ice by a northern craftsman. Those cut by this saber containing extreme cold energy would have their wounds freeze and shatter. Shall we begin then? Pat. Nung Jinsun launched his body like lightning, unleashing a saber technique overflowing with cold energy towards Corpse Blood Valley Master Li Jiom. In response, Li Jiom also raised flames, countering with a sword technique from the fierce flame sword method. As the two clashed, the Corpse Blood Valley warriors also deployed their sword formations, attacking the masked individuals trying to break through. Clang 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 clang. In an instant the peak turned into a battlefield. What? When did enemies reach the rear? Although they noticed the enemy infiltration from the sound of weapons clashing on nearby central peaks, the all-out offensive of the Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance coalition had begun, leaving no resources to assist. If they couldn't stop the overwhelming numbers pushing in, it could lead to their annihilation before they could properly establish their new organization. Stop them. We must delay them even a little. Chwa 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 chwa. The surviving archers desperately tried to stop the advancing enemies by firing arrows filled with poison mist. However, there was no way to delay the monster approaching at the very front. It was Kwahahahahaha. He burst through the purple poison mist with a wild laugh. With suntanned skin and an appearance reminiscent of a ferocious beast, he was unruly evil hegemon Emperor Hang Sim, one of the Seven Heavens and the First Alliance Lord of the Evil Alliance. Fire! Chwa 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 chwa. Humph. Fick. Whoosh. As he casually swung his saber with a snort, the rain of arrows instantly vanished. Pat. His figure, having broken through even the arrow rain, suddenly soared into the sky, flying towards the ambush point where the archers were gathered. Faced with his tremendous momentum like a meteor shower, the archers who had been shooting arrows tried to flee in panic and confusion. At that very moment, flying, someone stepped forward to block Hang Sim, who was flying with enough force to cut through the mountain peak in an instant. As sword and saber clashed, an enormous pressure wave swept out from the impact. Unruly evil hegemon Emperor Hang Sim looked at the one who had blocked his saber, grinning to reveal his yellow teeth. Oh Cheonmu. Alliance Lord Hang Sim. It's been a while. The one who blocked Hang Sim's saber was none other than Oh Cheonmu, the master of Spiritual Sword Sanctuary and also one of the Seven Heavens. He had stepped forward without hesitation, being the only one who could stop the unruly evil hegemon. Unruly evil hegemon Emperor Hang Sim spoke with a seemingly delighted laugh. Quah! It's worth coming to the battlefield on the off chance. I've been wanting to settle that disappointment from back then, you know. At these words, Oh Cheonmu briefly recalled a moment from long ago. The image of Hang Sim coming alone to Spiritual Sword Sanctuary in the Sword Valley, stubbornly demanding a famous saber be made for his unique weapon. At the time he had shown displeasure at Oh Cheonmu's refusal to make any weapon other than swords, but had quietly left. This was because, coincidentally, Righteous Alliance leader Zhang Haiyanmun had arrived to collect the newly completed famous sword Iowai that day. Even for someone like him, it would have been difficult to handle two profound realm great grandmasters alone in enemy territory. So he had left obediently, but is a weapon maker of use if they're so biased? I'll show you the excellence of the saber over the sword, Master O. Like this. High up. Flang. Oh Cheonmu's body was pushed back by the rebound force from Hang Sim's saber. However, having somewhat anticipated this, Oh Cheonmu had raised his internal energy and was able to stop at a distance of about 6 jang. His momentum is too high. As Oh Cheonmu was clicking his tongue at his wildness. Pat. This is just the beginning. Grip your sword properly. Clang 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 clang. But Hang Sim immediately followed up, unleashing a series of incredibly fierce saber techniques with tremendous momentum, pushing Oh Cheonmu back. Meanwhile, the forces of the Righteous Alliance and Evil Alliance finally broke through the poison mist and climbed the peaks of the 10,000 Great Mountains, and the full-scale battle began in earnest. Meanwhile, inside the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal Technique. I am the king. The Demon King who rules over all the clans of the myriad demons. The Demon King? Yes. That is who I am. Though I suppose now I can only say I was the Demon King. You speak as if it's a thing of the past. Ooh, that's exactly right. If it weren't so, we wouldn't be meeting like this as separate consciousnesses. The king of all existing demons. Then does that mean he's the pinnacle of existence for the Imi Mangyang? As he wondered, the being who had revealed himself as the Demon King lightly shook his head and said, I do not belong here. What do you mean? It would be more correct to say a different world. It's a world of endless conflict and collapse. Of course, saying this probably won't be easy for you, a human consciousness, to understand. Swish. With those words, the Demon King drew even closer. Unable to move due to the ancient forbidden technique of the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal Technique, Mok Jiongun couldn't help but feel wary at his sudden action. What are you trying to do? I had intended to contemplate until you attained the proper caliber. Contemplate? I didn't expect her to remain in such a pitiful spirit form. Her spirit form? Wait, what are you talking about? Don't tell me you. Swish. The Demon King placed his index finger on the forehead of the immobilized Mok Jiongun. Then, with a bitter yet sorrowful smile, he said, "It's merely an impurity, a lingering attachment of mine. Stop. There's no need to hear it in words. Once you accept me, you'll naturally come to know everything." As soon as those words ended, whoosh, the Demon King's body burst into black flames again, and they began to transfer to Mok Jiongun through his finger. Chapter 473, 1-1. Whoosh. The black flames spread. As they moved from his forehead across his entire body, Mok Jiongun's pupils shook at an incredible speed, almost imperceptible. From the moment the flames touched him, a vast amount of memories flooded in as if tearing through his mind. Even the brief flow of memories easily surpassed the years Mok Jiongun had lived. It was a process of birth. Even the sight of it forming in darkness and chaos remained in the memories. Stop. Mok Jiongun sent his will with difficulty. The vast influx of memories wasn't just recollections. Even that strange sensation from within the chaos was vividly transmitted. That's why Mok Jiongun felt pain as if his brain might burst just from the flood of memories. Enough. Stop it. Endure the pain. This is why I waited until you attained the proper caliber. The Demon King's will resonated in his ears. Though his head felt like it might burst from the flood of vast memories, Mok Jiongun understood these words. If his mind hadn't been properly awakened through enlightenment, he might have instantly gone mad, losing the ability to think due to these memories. However, it was still dangerous nonetheless. The flood of vast memories was gradually blurring Mok Jiongun's will, which had only lived for 18 years. At this rate, it was clear he would be devoured. Was he transferring memories to engulf him like this? Ugh. As Mok Jiongun struggled, a voice resonated in his ears again. Even though you were reborn as a human, your latent potential is boundless. Didn't I say that the years lived are meaningless? Despite these words, Mok Jiongun's eyes gradually grew dim. He was slowly being consumed by the memories. Then the black flames spoke in a meaningful voice. Will you succumb here and lose another precious being? At that very moment, Mok Jiongun's trembling pupils gradually steadied, and an intense light shone in his eyes. Seeing this, the black flames flickered more intensely. Along with this, the memories that had been merely flowing into Mok Jiongun's mind began to appear clearly. A red sky and 3 moons. A strange world tinged entirely in brown without a single cloud. This was not the present world. Countless beings, too numerous to count, looked up at him with reverence on the vast land of this strange world. And numerous memories flashed by, all stained with blood and death. Endless screams and death continuing for decades, centuries, millennia. How many had died in that time? Countless beings with pure white wings died by his hand, fearing and cursing him each moment. The memories were filled with nothing but blood and endless war over a long period of time, gradually feeling emptiness in everything and growing weary. Then a door opened, revealing a world beautiful with moonlight. The moment he saw that place, vitality and new energy surged in himself and all those in his memories. There's no need to cling to that world where blood never ceases and everything crumbles. Let's make this beautiful place our new home. If we cultivate this place a little, there's no need to fight with them. With such an ideal as they came to know this place, they realized that they too were interested in it just like themselves. Thus, they realized they couldn't approach carelessly. Fortunately, this world had day and night, and the clan members found it difficult to endure during the day, while they found it hard to endure at night. It seemed difficult to make this place a new home without eliminating the day. What should be done? As he pondered, looking down at this place from a mountain peak, an unforgettable being appeared in his memory. A female. Yes, it seems so. Off. Enough. Kill her and dispose of the body. I obey your command. It was a lowly human being native to this place. Being female, she was quite beautiful, but such things held no meaning for him. However, female? You talk like shit. Fucking male. He was freshly shocked by the curse he had never heard before. The beings of this world regarded him as a god. All the myriad demons looked up to him, and even those hostile to him feared him and saw him as an object of terror, so no one dared to speak carelessly. Yet this mere lowly human spoke to him like that? How dare you? Tora, who assisted him, was greatly angered and tried to kill the woman. But once his interest was piqued, it didn't easily subside, so he prevented Tora from killing her. Leave her be. What? I said leave her be. At that time Tora showed a look of utter incomprehension. This might have been a natural reaction as he regarded humans as beings lower than livestock or even insects. This was the moment that would break his long-standing destiny and change his fate. But at that time there were no regrets. The more he met her, the more he realized that this decision was not wrong. She was also like him and we fell deeper for each other. Although he could only meet her briefly, unable to leave his place for long due to the war with them, it was enough. But she was merely human. It was so regrettable that she lived such a short life. However, someone once told me that it's because it's short that it shines more brightly. Can't we live like that too? Because it's short it shines more brightly. Truly wise. Though it would be just a fleeting moment, everything shines beautifully, as she said. He even thought that perhaps his destiny was born not for destruction and annihilation, but for these moments. What if he had been born human just like her? Then he could have walked the same life path as her. It was on one such day. What's the matter? I apologize. Their leader is personally leading a great army to invade our main stronghold now. Talisha. The leader of those who call themselves the Heavenly Clan or the Clan of Gods. They had waged war for an incredibly long time. The war had been going on for so long that it was starting to feel like inertia, but now their leader was coming personally. Perhaps it's time to end this. They too are after this beautiful world. Perhaps for her sake as well he might need to end the war decisively. In the end he returned and engaged in an all-out war with them. The war, in which even the leaders of both great clans participated, was incomparably more intense than any before. And as the forces were evenly matched, the pattern and confrontation of the war dragged on. Thump thump thump. Then his core pulsed unusually, and he was enveloped by a strangely ominous feeling. Did that unease come true? A clan member he had sent to investigate reported to him urgently. My king. It seems they have intervened there. What? The Demon King, unable to believe it, finally opened a door and headed there. Just in case, he had connected a door to the shrine in the moon vein. Ah. The first thing that caught his eye as he passed through the door was her figure, wearing a red and beautiful bridal gown with a golden crown. A sincere exclamation escaped him. Momentarily entranced by that beauty, he soon launched his body without time to think, sensing ominous energies from somewhere. And there he witnessed a scene too shocking to bear. It was the horrific sight of someone ripping out her heart and crushing it. At that moment he lost his reason for the first time. Regardless of the identity of the perpetrator, his mind was filled only with killing intent. Krek. Arg. W. I'll kill you. Quack-quack-quang. Not content with twisting and ripping off the arms of the one who tore out her heart, he grabbed the perpetrator's legs and flung him around in all directions until his anger subsided. Rumble, 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 rumble. The ceiling of the great hall collapsed, and he ripped out and crushed the heart of the man whose face had been beaten to a pulp. And not satisfied with even that, he ripped off his head before he could die. Having instantly killed the man, he rushed to embrace her. Her body temperature, with her heart ripped out, was rapidly cooling. So, is she breathing her last like this? She said she would return, but is she leaving without waiting? At that moment she opened her eyes with difficulty. Was it a momentary miracle? Ugh. Seeing her open her eyes, he sobbed. The pain was so unbearable, as if his chest would be torn apart. Drip. A tear tinged with blood rolled down his cheek. She placed her hand on his cheek and moved her lips with difficulty. If we meet again, I wanted to be your bride. I feel the same. You are my only bride. He tightly held her hand, which was gradually losing strength, and said, You are beautiful. So beautiful, like a single red peony. At his words, a smile played on her lips and then her eyelids closed. You are Iowa. Seeing her breathe her last in his arms, he wailed and roared. It was too painful, his heart shattering, to have the only love he had found in such a long time lose her life so meaninglessly. As he grieved like this, the sky darkened and space rippled, then a huge door opened. A red sky appeared and hundreds of beings with white fluttering wings were visible. He looked up. Grind. So you were involved in this? Did you truly want to go this far? Grr. Seeing the figure emitting 5-colored splendid light with larger and more magnificent white wings than the others visible in the red sky, he stretched out his hand. Whoosh. Then the black bracelet wrapped around his wrist transformed into a black sword. The price is death alone. Pat. Then he launched his body towards the red sky. It was a battle lasting dozens of days. The result was almost a mutual destruction. Most of the clan members who followed him came due to the prolonged fight, but the result was so fierce that hardly any survived. I should have killed him. It was regrettable that he couldn't kill him for certain, but he succeeded in inflicting a fatal wound enough to burst his core. Of course he had to pay an equal sacrifice for it. It was when he returned to the castle wounded. Since the war with them wasn't over yet, all his subordinates had gone to the battlefield, and only a few assistants were guarding this place. It was while he was recovering from his injuries. You can't. He is still recovering his body. Step aside. If you don't want to die. However, I have something urgent to report to him. The voice heard from outside was that of his assistant, Tora. Though they desperately tried to stop him from outside, they were no match for the strong Tora. Tora killed them all and forcibly opened the door of the audience hall to enter. I'm sure I told everyone not to let anyone in. You did. But if not now, there won't be another chance. At this moment, the killing intent in Tora's voice and eyes became clear. Then Tora put something down and it emitted light, creating a door of rippling space. What are you doing now? I'm trying to understand your true intentions one last time. What do you mean? Give me the order right now. Tell me to enter here and deal with all the insects in that world. What is he saying all of a sudden in this situation? If not for his injuries, he would have punished him, but now he couldn't. I'm sure I told you I wouldn't rule that place. You I know is not like this. Shouldn't you only be for the clan? Showing mercy to insects because of a mere human woman? Tora. I will not forgive any further disrespect. At these words, Tora suddenly laughed madly. Quah! So it's true that your core was pierced by the Heavenly Clan King's divine sword. I'll go there right now and remove everything that has weakened you, returning you to your original state. Please understand my loyal intentions. Tora. First I'll kill that woman and send you her head. She had already lost her life. However, with his grief and anger not yet subsided, he couldn't bear this. Finally, unable to contain his anger, the Demon King stopped his recovery and launched his body at Tora. However, is this all you can do? You've truly become weak. Having suffered serious injuries, he couldn't exert his power properly. Tora grabbed his head and chest. You know what ability I have, don't you? It seems impossible for you to lead our clan any longer in your weakened state. And that weakened heart of yours too. Cough cough. You've become twisted, Tora. Humph. Tora began to absorb his remaining demonic energy. Although weakened, he wasn't completely drained of power and could have resisted this, but he soon stopped. What meaning was there in living when she was no longer in this world? He no longer had any lingering attachment to this world of killing and being killed. As Tora absorbed almost all of his demonic energy over a long time, he sneered with a voice full of confidence. How disappointing. The greatest warrior and incarnation of the Black Flame not even resisting. To such a Tora, he, having lost his strength and become haggard, said, "End it with me alone." What are you saying now? I'll allow you to lead the clan, so don't pay any more attention to that place. Grind. At these words, Tora sneered as if disappointed. Then he lifted his body up. Grab. What are you trying to do? Until the end, only that human woman matters to you. She's not everything. Not like you think. Enough. I understand well how you think of the clan. If you like that place so much, rot there for the rest of your life. Tora. To him, Tora whispered with a cold smile. I forgot this. Come to think of it, how do you think they knew about your woman? His pupils shook madly. Don't tell me. They will come looking for you. Try to survive while running away desperately. If you can survive in that state, that is. Pat. With that he threw him into the door. The place where the door opened was none other than high in the sky. If he hadn't known the truth he might have thought it better to die like this. But now he couldn't do that. Knowing he couldn't endure falling like this in his current body, he drew out the residual demonic energy within him. Whoosh. His body was enveloped in black flames. In that state he fell towards the ground at tremendous speed. But, though he protected his body with the demonic energy of the black flames, he couldn't avoid the pain of his insides being shaken. As he was about to collapse, someone appeared in his vision. There he saw an old man bowing down to him with tears in his eyes. Is this a human who worships him? But, as the flames dissipated due to the loss of energy, he collapsed. The old man ran to him, supported him and checked his pulse. O Divine One, I am a servant who serves you. Please allow me to save your life. Do as you wish. The man, who identified himself as Jang Mun-no, the guardian of Fire Faith Order, carried the Demon King on his back and headed towards a large village where he could procure medicinal ingredients. The village they headed to was Longmen in Guangdong Province. Jang Mun-no sat him down in a deserted alley corner and said, I will find medicinal ingredients, so please wait here for a moment. I'll be back soon. Do so. After Jang Mun-no left, the Demon King, leaning against the wall, touched his core. Not only was his core pierced, but he had been nearly drained of all his energy, so it was no exaggeration to say he was facing death. Is this how he would disappear? Grind. It was truly unbearable. Should he have killed that bastard then, even at the cost of his own life? His great mistake was simply giving up, feeling resentful for not choosing the clan and having no lingering attachment to life. Having lost all his power, even if he survived, there was no hope left. But right at that moment, flinch. He sensed their energy from somewhere. It was clearly the energy of the Heavenly Clan. Were they searching for him as that bastard Tora had said? Swish, swish, swish. They were approaching. Though he had lost almost all of his demonic energy, he seemed to have immediately noticed due to his ability to sense the unique energy of the Demon Clan and detect cores. Grip. Clutching his chest, he moved his body. He couldn't die like this yet. Pat. He climbed onto the roof and launched his body in the opposite direction of the approaching energies. Throb, throb. However, not only had he lost almost all his energy, but his core was also pierced, so he couldn't move his body freely. As he was crossing the roofs, he soon fell, unable to endure the sharp pain. Ugh. Bang. Coincidentally, the place he fell was none other than a carriage. He fell through the carriage into it, where a woman who had collided with him lay unconscious, and he saw a baby she was cradling with her body. Wah wah. A crying baby. It's so small, as if it was born not long ago. After staring at it for a while, his eyes grew bitter. If she had lived, would they have had a baby like this too? But now, longing for that was just a vain attachment. After all, since he wasn't human, she couldn't have given birth to a human. He had wanted to become human, wanting to walk the same life path as her. He had wished for it so desperately in his mind, but he couldn't do it, having to abandon the clan he led. But now there was no reason to give up. After staring at the baby for a long time, he finally reached out his hand to it. Swish, swish, swish. The energy, presumably theirs, was getting closer and closer. At this point, if he gave up his core and became human, he could also escape their eyes. But if he exhausted all his remaining power to become human, his consciousness or self might disappear as it was. He had become that weak. But there was no other choice left. Yes. If he became human like her, perhaps that would be a shining ending in its own way. The Demon King, stroking the baby, finally muttered softly, "Soul, I miss you." Whoosh. Then his body was enveloped in black flames, and his form slowly began to shrink. And within those flames, there was another baby that looked exactly like the crying baby. Chapter 474, 1-2. A baby born in black flames. After the last intense memory, Mok Jaeungun's eyes slowly reddened as time flowed infinitely slow in the space around him. Whoosh. The black flames that had been burning larger than his body moments ago had now subsided to about the size of a fist. Mok Jaeungun looked at him and sent a thought. Why do you entrust this to me, a mere human consciousness? Couldn't you take back everything yourself? At the point when he regained all his memories, Mok Jaeungun was identical to him, albeit with a different personality. However, the fact that he had become a human consciousness remained unchanged. Regardless of status, he could easily devour his own consciousness that had lived such a short life. Yet he did not. Mok Jae-un couldn't help but wonder at this entirely irrational decision. Then the black flame flickered. It's not mere. Isn't it shining even brighter? Someone once said. Because it's short, it shines even brighter. That's how we should live too, right? The image of her smiling brightly flashed by. Was that your everything? Born as the king of demons, nearly immortal, you longed for a human life, fleeting yet shining brighter than anyone else's. The black flame was growing smaller and smaller. It was dying out. It was truly long. Stop. There's no need to completely dissolve your will into me like this. No, why are you trying to disappear? I'm not disappearing. There's no need to think that way. You're me. In the end, we are one. As the black flame shrank to about the size of a finger, even the voice grew fainter. Mok Jae-un tried to prevent him from seeping into himself. But he did not stop it. Enough. Stop. Didn't you want to meet her? Didn't you want to speak to her every moment you were awake? He could understand because all the memories had been assimilated. In those few moments of wakefulness, he had repeated the same words dozens, hundreds, thousands of times in his mind. I missed you so much. My one and only bride. Yet he never uttered these words aloud. He knew well why he had done this. It was to leave no lingering attachments. If even a hair's breadth of attachment remained, he might be tempted to give up on assimilating with his human consciousness. That's why he never spoke to her in the end. Even if it was just once, Mok Jae-un wanted him to say this while still maintaining his own personality. However, as the flame burned out, only red embers flickered. His faint voice echoed in Mok Jae-un's ear. So, and my beautiful, shining story ended. Then, now, it's the story of Chongrang and you, the dying embers. In that instant he pictured his meeting with her. And he recalled his bride who was so beautiful for the last time. You were beautiful. So beautiful like a single red peony. Whoosh. The embers extinguished like that and scattered like heat haze. As his final will settled in his mind, a single tear rolled down Mok Jae-un's reddened cheek as their consciousnesses merged completely into one. Drip. At that moment, a crack appeared in the infinitely slow flow of time. Crack. Crack. As the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal technique cracked, the three eyes of Mok Gon's avatar trembled. How? The Supreme Void Sealing Reversal technique, known as the Ancient Gold technique. This was an absolute technique created to capture beings trying to transcend the natural order, those approaching the realm of gods. Unlike before, it had been perfectly executed, so no one but himself should have been able to break it. But what on earth was happening? Crack, crack, crack. The crack that had appeared once was gradually spreading in all directions. At this, Mok Gon's avatar's gaze quickly turned to Mok Jae-un at the center of the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal technique. Thump. Just then he heard a heartbeat. In the infinitely slow flow of time, it should have been impossible to hear a heartbeat, but the bastard's heart was gradually beating fast enough to be audible. Thump. 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 It wasn't an illusion. The heartbeat had returned to normal. Mok Gon's avatar immediately spread his arms wide. Then looking at where Mok Jae-un was, he brought his arms together, making a gesture of enclosing with both hands. Then, whoosh. The widely spread Supreme Void Sealing Reversal technique shrank, and the light around Mok Jae-un grew more intense. It gradually transformed into a spherical shape. He was trying to make the technique stronger by reducing the range of the main force of the wide area Supreme Void Sealing Reversal technique. Cough, cough. Blood spilled from Mok Gon's avatar's mouth as he coughed. It was because he had forcibly moved the main force in an already weakened state. But he had no confidence in stopping this anomaly without doing this. Although it might be too late if that bastard managed to escape from the perfect Supreme Void Sealing Reversal technique. Crack, crack, crack. At that moment, the brightly shining sphere began to split. No. I must stop this somehow. Pooh. Just then, black blood gushed out of Mok Gon's avatar's mouth like a fountain, and the sphere shattered, scattering the concentrated light in all directions. Whoosh. From within the flowing light, a black shadow quickly stretched out and grabbed Mok Gon's avatar's neck. Grip. Ku. It was Mok Jaeongyeon. The pupils of Mok Gon's avatar, whose neck was grabbed, trembled violently. The overwhelming pressure was beyond imagination, making it difficult to even meet his eyes. Felt like facing an absolute being. Although it wasn't in this current body, he had felt this once before. Ku, you. Disappear. It was at that very moment. A sharp aura enveloping his entire body. As soon as he sensed it. Splash. Mok Gon's avatar's body simply exploded. Despite the body exploding right in front of him and blood splattering everywhere, not a single drop stained Mok Jaeongyeon's body. After killing him like that, Mok Jaeongyeon looked towards the far south. Is it there? Whoosh. At that moment, a circular wave-like ripple spread out, the space trembled and Mok Jaeongyeon's form vanished into a point. Throb. The man in the bamboo hat standing in the shadows winced at a sudden headache. Seeing this, a man with long hair and red lips who was guarding nearby approached and asked. Mok Gon. Are you all right? Mok Gon, as the man in the bamboo hat was called, held out his hand as if to tell him not to come closer. At this, the man hastily stopped. Mok Gon then opened his mouth. It seems he has broken free. What? By he, do you mean that avatar? Who else would I be talking about? My apologies. However, Mok Gon. No one has ever escaped from the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal Technique, the ancient gold technique, by their own power. The Supreme Void Sealing Reversal Technique had even captured the 6 demons, who were said to be close to divine beings. Even if one had reached the realm of life and death, considered the highest level among martial artists, it still fell short of the 6 demons. But, are you saying this one has misunderstood? At the sharp voice, the red-lipped man quickly knelt down and pressed his forehead to the ground in apology. Thud. 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 Peel, please forgive me. How could this lowly one have such disrespectful thoughts? Stand back. At Mok Gon's command, the red-lipped man's form blurred and disappeared. Once he was out of sight, Mok Gon slightly raised his hand and then lowered it. For a moment he almost lost control of his madness and anger. What is this? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that his souls were connected with his avatars. Therefore he could share their thoughts and see what they were seeing. But the last thing he saw was the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal Technique cracking. At this, his avatar was compressing the main force of the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal Technique into a sphere. But from that moment on, the avatar's consciousness turned black and then was suddenly cut off. Judging by the impact on his soul, the avatar had certainly died. But why couldn't he see the final moment? Did someone intervene? Mok Gon, who had been lost in thought for a moment, shook his head. It didn't matter anyway. Even if someone had helped the avatar and he had somehow broken free from the Supreme Void Sealing Reversal Technique by some stroke of luck, it was already too late. It was too far from there to here. By the time he arrived here, everything would already be over. All he would see was death. Sneer. Mok Gon, with a sinister smile curling his lips, sent a thought to his avatar in the 10,000 Great Mountains. 7th form of the Crimson Flame Sword Technique, surpassing fire form. Whoosh. The sword of Li Jiom, the Corpse Blood Valley Master, created an incredibly intricate trajectory of flames, overwhelming the frost-based sword technique. Clang 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 clang. Damn it. Crack. The Snowfield Sword of Nung Jinsoon, the 2nd tier of the Secret Society, which was blocking the flaming sword technique with all its might, couldn't withstand the heat and cracked, then. Clang. It split in half and flew away. Not missing that instant, the flaming sword cut from Nung Jinsoon's right shoulder through his heart and down to his waist. It's your victory. Acknowledging his defeat, Nung Jinsoon used his last strength to utter those words. Then his split upper body fell backward. Thud. Due to the heat, the cut area was cauterized, preventing blood from gushing out. Li Jiom, who had barely defeated him, knelt on one knee and exhaled rough breaths. Huff. 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 He was truly a formidable opponent. Having reached the transformation realm and perfected his divine technique, Li Jiom thought he could defeat him easily, but this man was in supreme master comparable to the 8 stars. If he hadn't sacrificed one arm with the determination of returning to the same destination, he wouldn't have won the battle. His left arm, more than half severed, was dangling. It was essentially a lost arm. Swish. Li Jiom then cut off his dangling arm. It should have been painful, but he didn't make a sound of pain as he cut off his arm, instead pressing the blood-stopping point to stem the bleeding. Just then he heard someone clapping. Clap, clap, clap. Li Jiom's expression hardened at the sound coming from behind. Despite being injured, he hadn't lowered his guard, yet he hadn't sensed anyone approaching from behind at all. He deceived my chi sense? He was now comparable to the 8 stars, considered the highest level in the martial arts world. If someone could deceive his senses at this level. Swish. Li Jiom's complexion darkened instantly as he turned his head. He saw Zhang Haiyanmun, the leader of the Righteous Alliance, clapping in front of him. Zhang Haiyanmun. Impressive. I thought you were too obsessed with useless solar energy to achieve great things, but it seems I was wrong. Li Jiom furrowed his brow and opened his mouth. What are you talking about? Having never left the Corpse Blood Valley, he had no particular conflict with the Righteous Alliance. Therefore, even the leader of the Righteous Alliance shouldn't know anything about him. So how does he know that his Crimson Flamesword technique is based on solar energy? He was puzzled. Xing. Zhang Haiyanmun approached, drawing his unique weapon, the famous sword Ioi. It's a pity to meet such a fate of death just as your talent has blossomed. Whoosh. Just by drawing his sword, the overwhelming aura made Li Jiom's hand holding his sword tremble. Even if he hadn't been injured, this wasn't an opponent he could defeat. How many forms of the 7 heavens, considered the pinnacle of the current martial arts world, could he block? Could he even block a single form? Li Jiom, who had been glaring at the approaching man, took a deep breath. It's meaningless. Winning wasn't the goal. What he was trying to do was to protect. Rip. Li Jiom tore a strip from his clothing, then bit the cloth with his teeth and used his sword and hand to wrap it. It was a resolution to never let go of his sword, even in death. Impressive. But it's a futile act. If you step back, you might be able to preserve your life a little longer. Cut off my head and pass. PFT. Zhang Haiyanmun, the leader of the Righteous Alliance, snorted at Li Jiom's resolve, then was about to step forward. It was at that moment. Slither. Suddenly, drops of blood spilled by the dead on the mountain peak began to rise one by one. Zhang Haiyanmun's lips curled into a sinister smile at this strange sight. He's here. Chapter 475, Great Calamity. 1. Blood from the corpses of those killed. Those droplets of blood stirred and then slowly began to rise. Slither. Li Jiom, the Corpse Blood Valley Master who had been unaware of the floating blood droplets due to facing Zhang Haiyanmun, the leader of the Righteous Alliance and one of the 7 heavens at the pinnacle of the current martial world, only noticed as the world gradually turned red. What is this? The mountain peak's floor was so soaked in blood it was soggy, and the floating blood droplets made the world seem dyed in blood. Just then Zhang Haiyanmun, the Righteous Alliance leader, scanned the surroundings and spoke. Show yourself if you've come, Sowul. Sowul. A strange light flickered in Li Jiom's eyes. Has she returned? At that moment, poof. Though he hadn't taken his eyes off him, Zhang Haiyanmun's form suddenly blurred and appeared right in front of him. Without time to think, he leaned back and tried to create distance by flying away, but swish. Suddenly his sword was trying to cut his neck. Even if he wanted to avoid it, it happened in such a split second that his body couldn't react to the speed. Can't even block a single strike? Aside from injuries, was the gap between the 8 stars and the 7 heavens truly unbridgeable? As he stared intently at the unavoidable sword at that very moment. Clang. Just before the blade touched his neck. Despite it being a situation where interference seemed impossible, something that surged from the blood on the ground blocked the blade of the famous sword Ioi that was about to cut his neck. Simultaneously. Whoosh. Huh. Li Jiom's form was thrown backward by an eerie and sinister energy. Knowing it wasn't meant to injure but to throw him back, Li Jiom didn't use his inner energy to resist the force. As he was pushed back, his eyes caught a glimpse of a being wearing a crown. She was Ryu Sowul Chongryong, the last head of the Moon Vein clan whom they had served for generations. Even as a vengeful spirit, you're still weak. Swayed by sentiment, you throw away the perfect opportunity to cut this neck and save a descendant of that house. In response to Zhang Haiyanmun's sneering words, Chongryong glared at him fiercely and spoke. What would you know who only understands taking? So, isn't that why you've come to take back again? My. Clang. Before he could finish speaking, Zhang Haiyanman's famous sword Oi was deflected upward by Chong Ryong's long pipe. Shut up. Zhang Haiyanman's lips curled up at her explosive spiritual energy. Has she transcended the limits of a vengeful spirit? This was spiritual energy beyond purple spirit, no, even surpassing that. Even with the art of solitude, it was impossible to create such a powerful vengeful spirit even with time and effort. It showed just how extreme her resentment had become. However, swish. The moment his sword was deflected, Zhang Haiyanman's sword energy struck at Chong Ryong's forehead like lightning. Chong Ryong quickly sank into the blood on the ground, but in an instant the crown she was wearing shattered and flew off. Slide. Having thus avoided Zhang Haiyanman's strike, her form rose from the blood about 10 steps away. Looking at her, Zhang Haiyanman smiled and said, "Shall we duel with swords like in the old days? Do you think I'll be swept along by your wishes?" She had no intention of doing what her enemy wanted. Now that she had drawn him into her world, she intended to slash him to pieces and kill him for certain. Swish. As she swung her long pipe, the countless blood droplets floating in the air began to tremble. At first glance it looked like the droplets were vibrating, but they're rotating. Li Jiom, watching from a distance, could see that this was a phenomenon caused by the blood droplets spinning at high speed. Whirl. Though hard to see due to their small size, the blood droplets were spreading thinly and rotating rapidly, increasing their sharpness and power. Was she controlling all these countless blood droplets? It was jaw-dropping. Indeed. The smile disappeared from Zhang Haiyanman's face as he became quite serious. That's how ominous Chong Ryong's current actions were. At this crack, his forehead split open and a third eye opened. Li Jiom's eyes widened at the sight. Could that be? It was similar to what he had seen from Na Yulriang, the eldest young master, in the inner palace of the Heaven and Earth Society. Then does this mean that Zhang Haiyanman, the Righteous Alliance leader, is also connected to that secret society? Just how formidable is this secret society that even Zhang Haiyanman, one of the 7 heavens at the pinnacle of the current martial world, is involved? Li Jiom was inwardly concerned. How many others might be hidden, he wondered. Just then, die. Swish. As Chong Ryong extended her long pipe, the rapidly rotating blood droplets all rushed towards Zhang Haiyanman at once. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Each rotating blood droplet had enough power to blow away an entire body part if it penetrated. She thought that even Mok Gon couldn't avoid this technique she had carefully developed over a long time. But she saw Zhang Haiyanman's lips curl up, when she expected him to be flustered. Flinch. What on earth does that mean? As she wondered, Zhang Haiyanman stabbed his famous sword Oi into the ground and spread his arms wide. Is he really going to take this head-on? At that moment, pop 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 pop, the fiercely rotating blood droplets flying towards him slid away to other directions before even touching his body. Chong Ryong's expression hardened at this sight. The ritual of repulsion. That technique of deflecting incoming strong forces as if sliding them away was one of the 8 thought-shattering techniques, the ritual of repulsion. He had reached the highest level in the forms of the 8 thought-shattering techniques that had attained enlightenment. Pop 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 pop. The deflected blood droplets flew towards the surviving corpse Blood Valley warriors. Dodge. Li Jiom shouted hurriedly, but it was already too late. Exhausted from fending off enemies, they had no strength left to avoid this. Bang. Just as casualties were about to occur, Chong Ryong slammed her palm down towards the ground. Then, whoosh. The pooled blood surged upwards, creating a wall surrounding the area. Thanks to this, the blood droplets deflected by the ritual of repulsion were absorbed into the blood wall, preventing the damage they might have inflicted in reverse. Huff. Puff. Though she tried not to show it, Chong Ryong's complexion was not good. In fact, she had not yet fully recovered her spiritual energy. Amidst this, driven by the sole determination to thwart Mok Gon's scheme, she had raced here tirelessly day and night. Hence, she had aimed to settle the match with Zhang Haiyanman, who could be considered Mok Gon's avatar, in a short time, but that was no longer feasible. If she used another large technique that consumed spiritual energy, she might put herself in more danger. So, swish. With a wave of her hand, the demonic intent domain blood realm that had dyed the peak's floor and surroundings blood red was withdrawn as if it had never existed. As everyone looked bewildered, Zhang Haiyanman spoke as if he had expected this. That's about all you can do with an incomplete body, right? Any further resistance is meaningless. Resistance? You're mistaken about something. This is revenge. Revenge. Haha. That also requires strength. What you're trying to do is merely struggling. So wool. Chong Ryong snorted at those words. Fine. Then I'll struggle to my heart's content. Until my kicks crush your skull. Swish. With those words, Chong Ryong took the initial stance of the moon vein sword technique. At this, Li Jiom shouted. "My lord. Take this." With those words, Li Jiom threw the scabbard he had been carrying on his back to her. Catch. Without even looking at the flying scabbard, she reached back and caught it, then immediately drew the sword from the scabbard. Ching. With a clear sword cry, a pure white sword revealed itself. It was the famous sword Sun Yun, a unique weapon made exclusively for her by Gu Moonhyuk, a descendant of the great craftsman Gu Yijia. The moment she grasped the sword, Sun Yun trembled with sword light and a strong resonance flowed out. Boom. Sun Yun, held in its master's hand after 100 years, was crying. You've waited a long time too, Sun Yun. Truly a famous sword. It recognized its master even though she was grasping it in spirit form, not with a physical body. At that moment, an unknown energy flowed in from Sun Yun. Whoosh. This is. It was the emotion that had accumulated in the famous sword Sun Yun over 100 years. The 100 years of emotion had become a highly pure energy, and as it entered her, her severely depleted spiritual energy began to gradually recover. Chong Ryong's eyes flickered with a strange light. Though it was a famous sword, it wasn't a demonic sword, so how did it have such an ability? Was this your provision, Gu Moonhyuk? Or did 100 years of time make you like this? The master craftsman Gu Moonhyuk, who made and brought her the sword. He seemed to have made the best sword for her. Tightly gripping the famous sword Sun Yun, Chong Ryong returned to a swordsman's mindset after a long time and took the initial stance. Whoosh. The moment she took the initial stance, a sharp sword energy flowed out in all directions. Seeing her changed aura, Zhang Haiyanmun, the Righteous Alliance leader, pulled out his famous sword Ioi that had been stuck in the ground. Meanwhile, she sent her thoughts to Li Jiom, the Corpse Blood Valley master, so that only he could hear. Leave this one to me and go tell the leaders right now that they must stop the fight with the Righteous Alliance and the Evil Alliance. Why? As Li Jiom showed a puzzled look. This is his scheme. He's not just aiming for my soul, Wai So-yun, or the Heaven and Earth Society. What he's really targeting is to gather the majority of martial artists in one place. Before she could finish speaking, Zhang Haiyanmun, who had suddenly closed the distance, unleashed the Heaven Sword technique towards her. In response, she hurriedly countered with the Moon Sword technique using Sun Yun. Clang 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 clang. As the famous swords Ioi and Sun Yun clashed, blue sparks flew and the sound of space being torn echoed in all directions. Unlike before, Zhang Haiyanmun's gaze became strange the moment their swords crossed. It was the first time in 100 years that they had crossed swords. However, this was only for a moment, and soon he began to push her back with dazzlingly intricate sword techniques. Clang 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 clang. To think I'd sense his color in the Moon Sword technique. The sword Chong Ryong was wielding was not the Moon Sword technique he had known before. Rather, it had become similar to his sword technique. This was enough to twist his mind. Clang 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 clang. As the sword clash intensified, perhaps finding it difficult to send thoughts separately while focusing on the fight, Chong Ryong shouted at Li Jiom. Hurry and stop them. Li Jiom hesitated for a moment at her cry. This was because he had to momentarily abandon his duty to protect Wai So-yun, who could be considered Chong Ryong's reincarnation. However, unable to disobey her order, he soon flew off. Poof. As Li Jiom descended from the peak, Zhang Haiyanmun, who had been exchanging sword techniques, sneered. It's already too late. No. I won't let things go as you wish. How pitiful. So you can't stop anything. Now let's forget everything and be together again. Shut up. Even if this is the last and I perish, I will never be with you. Clang. Chong Ryong deflected the sword upward and wrapped blood-colored spiritual energy around her sword. Then she tried to pierce Zhang Haiyanmun's face by rotating the blood-colored spiritual energy. Zhang Haiyanmun gave a meaningful smile, then sneer. Clang. He's blocking this? But that wasn't the end. Crack. Not only did he block her blood-colored spiritual energy-infused sword strike, but he also deflected it upward using the pear blossom grafting technique, infusing it with his own inner energy. Whoosh! The force was so strong that Chong Ryong's spirit body was sent soaring upwards. She was suddenly propelled nearly 30 jang upwards and could only stop herself by wrapping spiritual energy around herself. As she stopped like that, Zhang Haiyanmun had already caught up to her. Chong Ryong tried to attack him as she regained her balance, but flinch. She had to stop as she saw the scene before her eyes. This was because she could see something rushing towards this place, blackening the ground beyond the horizon that wasn't visible even from the peak of the 10,000 Great Mountains. Though hard to see clearly due to the distance, it was undoubtedly evil spirits and monsters. They were grotesque beings that could be called evil spirits and monsters. An incalculable number of these grotesque beings were swarming towards the 10,000 Great Mountains. Judging by their speed, they would arrive here before long. With his back to them, Zhang Haiyanmun, the Righteous Alliance leader, opened his mouth. "I told you. It's already too late. Ha ha ha."